ਇਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਿਨਾਮ ਕਰਤਾ ਪੁਰਖ ਨਿਰਭਉ ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਅਕਾਲ ਮੂਰਤ ਅਜੂਨੀ ਸੈਭੰ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦਿ ਜਪ ਆਦਿ ਸਚ ਜੁਗਾਦਿ ਸਚ ਹੈ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਨਾਨਕ ਹੋਸੀ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਇਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਿਨਾਮ ਕਰਤਾ ਪੁਰਖ ਨਿਰਭਉ ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਅਕਾਲ ਮੂਰਤ ਅਜੂਨੀ ਸੈਭੰ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦਿ ਜਪ ਆਦਿ ਸਚ ਜੁਗਾਦਿ ਸਚ ਹੈ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਨਾਨਕ ਹੋਸੀ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਇਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਿਨਾਮ ਕਰਤਾ ਪੁਰਖ ਨਿਰਭਉ ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਅਕਾਲ ਮੂਰਤ ਅਜੂਨੀ ਸੈਭੰ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦਿ ਜਪ ਆਦਿ ਸਚ ਜੁਗਾਦਿ ਸਚ ਹੈ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਨਾਨਕ ਹੋਸੀ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਇਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਿਨਾਮ ਕਰਤਾ ਪੁਰਖ ਨਿਰਭਉ ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਅਕਾਲ ਮੂਰਤ ਅਜੂਨੀ ਸੈਭੰ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦਿ ਜਪ ਆਦਿ ਸਚ ਜੁਗਾਦਿ ਸਚ ਹੈ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਨਾਨਕ ਹੋਸੀ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਇਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸਤਿਨਾਮ ਕਰਤਾ ਪੁਰਖ ਨਿਰਭਉ ਨਿਰਵੈਰ ਅਕਾਲ ਮੂਰਤ ਅਜੂਨੀ ਸੈਭੰ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦਿ ਜਪ ਆਦਿ ਸਚ ਜੁਗਾਦਿ ਸਚ ਹੈ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਨਾਨਕ ਹੋਸੀ ਭੀ ਸਚ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਗਿਆਨ ਧਿਆਨ ਕਿਛ ਕਰਮ ਨ ਜਾਨਾ ਨਾਹਿਨ ਨਿਰਮਲ ਕਰਨੀ ਸਾਧ ਸੰਗਤ ਕੈ ਅੰਚਲ ਲਾਵਹੁ ਬਿਖਮ ਨਦੀ ਜਾਇ ਤਰਣੀ ਗਿਆਨ ਧਿਆਨ ਕਿਛ ਕਰਮ ਨ ਜਾਣਾ ਸਾਰ ਨ ਜਾਣਾ ਤੇਰੀ ਸਭ ਤੇ ਵੱਡਾ ਸਤਿਗੁਰ ਨਾਨਕ ਜਿਨ ਕਲ ਰਾਖੀ ਮੇਰੀ ਤੇਰੇ ਜੋਰ ਮੈਂ ਗੂੰਗਾ ਕਹਤਾ ਹੂੰ ਤੇਰਾ ਸਦਕਾ ਤੇਰੀ ਸਰਣ
ਸਤਨਾਮ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਜਾਤ ਪਹਾਰਾ ਧੀਰਜ ਸੁਨਿਆਰ ਆਹਰਣ ਮਤ ਵੇਦ ਹਥਿਆਰ ਭਉ ਖੱਲਾ ਅਗਨ ਤਪ ਤਾਉ ਭਾਂਡਾ ਭਾਉ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਤਿਤ ਢਾਲ ਘੜੀਐ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਸੱਚੀ ਟਕਸਾਲ ਜਿਨ ਕਉ ਨਦਰ ਕਰਮ ਤਿਨ ਕਾਰ ਨਾਨਕ ਨਦਰੀ ਨਦਰ ਨਿਹਾਲ ਜਾਤ ਪਹਾਰਾ ਧੀਰਜ ਸੁਨਿਆਰ।
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਧੰਨ ਧੰਨ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਪਤਿਤ ਪਾਵਨ ਭਗਤ ਵਛਲ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਦੇ ਖਜ਼ਾਨੇ ਜੋਤ ਰੂਪ ਧੰਨ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਸਾਧ ਸੰਗਤ blessed to be gathered here again as we come to the end of learning about Sri Japji Sahib. We've reached the 38th pauri, the pauri before the salog, which completes Sri Japji Sahib. Sri Japji Sahib, the Bani which is going to give us Brahm Gyan, the true knowledge of Akal Purkh Vaheguru, the Lord God, the giver, the organizer and the deliverer of us into themselves. Sri Japji Sahib is the discussion between Tan Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji and the Siddhs They're question and answers. They're asking questions initially to try and convert, to try and change Dhan Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji. Dhan Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji is answering those questions to bless the Siddhs. Because even though the Siddhs had spent a lot of time trying to gain occult powers, Riddhiyan Siddhiyan, trying to live forever, they had still repeated at points the name of the Lord. And the Lord on the earth at that time is in the form of Dhan Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji, the first Sarup, the first King of Kings, the first Badshah, the first Guru. Dhan Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji has come, the embodiment of Akal Purkh Vaheguru, and they are there to bless the Siddhs. So their answers are in fact blessing the Siddhs. So in turn, instead of the Siddhs trying to convert Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji to join their path and to spread their message, what's actually happening, Dhan Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji is blessing them, and in fact they are the ones who will be blessed and join the path of the truth, the path which is Aad Sach, Jugad Sach, Hai Bhi Sach, Nanak Hosi Bhi Sach, the path that was the truth, that is the truth, that before the ages, at the start of the ages, it's true now, and it will be true forevermore. That path is the path of what we know now as Gursikhi, because those teachings continued through the 10 Gurus, and now in the form of Dhan Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, the embodiment of Akal Purkh Vaheguru Sahib Ji's Jodh on this earth now. We've reached the final body before the slok, and in the previous bodiya, the previous 7 bodies, the Siddhs were asking about the steps of spirituality, the steps of reaching Sachkhand. Obviously, many faiths believe in heavens and hells, and through my translations I've always said we don't believe in heavens and we don't believe in hells. What I mean by that is that we don't believe that that is our target. What I don't mean is that there's no such thing as a heaven or hell, because heavens and hells do exist. They exist, but they are not complete. In fact, going to heavens and hells are part of the transmigration cycle, are part of the cycle of births and deaths. If you do good, you get to spend time. These are those from other faiths. You get time to spend in their heaven. But again, when that time is up, you have to come back into the cycle and keep coming and going constantly. Like we have been coming and going forever, it seems, forever and ever. And similarly, those who do bad end up in those places of hell until they have paid what they have for what they have done, and then they can come back into the cycle. So when I say we don't believe in heavens and hells, what I mean is that we don't believe that that is our target. Our target is becoming one with Vaheguru, experiencing that place called Sachkhand, becoming one with Vaheguru and breaking free from that cycle of births and deaths. So we don't have to be born again, because we have become immortal, we are part, we are one with Vaheguru. So in those 7 stages, we started with a stage, the Pehli Bhumika of Shobh Ichha, having a good thought and then living out that thought. And it developed into the 5 khands, the Panch khands, starting with Dharam Khand. And then the khands developed and they reached Sachkhand. And the Siddhs, listening to each one of these stages, realized that actually developing through these stages could be very, very difficult. They then asked Dhan Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji, please tell us a way how we can develop through these stages. What do we do to be able to develop through these stages? What is the ideal person on this earth to do to be able to get through those stages and reach that place of Sachkhand? And it's in this following pauri that Dhan Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji describes, if you will, the jivan, the living of that soul, of that person who reaches Sachkhand. So in fact, we can think of this pauri in 2 ways. We can think of this following pauri as a state of those who are Brahmagyanis, i.e. who are one with Vaheguru. They've reached that state of Sachkhand. This is their avastha, this is their state, this is how they live their lives. But we can also think of this body is what we can do, a step at a time, to be able to work through those stages. So Tan Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji explains right at the end. So you can imagine Sri Japji Sahib explaining about creation, about our karmas, about the types of things that happen in this world. And they continue about praising the Lord, all those topics we've gone through. And ultimately, right at the end, the key topic is how do we become one with Vaheguru. Before we can understand that, we've had to understand how this world is set up, to do with our actions, to do with hukam, to do with what other people have done, how they've come and how they've failed, the importance of listening, believing and understand, and then following. We've learned about all those things. We're at that stage of understanding. Now that we should have understood why and how everything works, now we're thinking about the actual question, which we should have started with. How do we become one with Ik Oankar? It started with Ik, one, Oankar, Vaheguru, who is the creator, the giver, the organizer, the deliverer. And how do we become one with Vaheguru? That is the question that should have been in our minds all the way through. And it's come to that point where Guru Sahib Ji is explaining to the Siddhs and explains to us that we can develop through those stages and we can become one with the Vaheguru by following these teachings.
Satnam Sri Vaheguru Sahib Ji Jat Pahara Tiraj Sunyar.
So Sadguru Sahib Ji, Sri Guru Granth Sahib, Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji. Sadguru Sahib Ji, Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji are going to use the example of a goldsmith and a goldsmith's place, their workshop, to describe how our jivan should be. And they start off by saying to the Siddhs, Jat Pahara. Pahara is the place where a goldsmith works. So, or the kiln of the goldsmith. Jat means our kiln, our place. So they're describing this place of a goldsmith, and they're going to give us qualities of what we should have, or what we should be aiming for. And those are the qualities that bring us one with God. And that first quality, that place of a goldsmith, that kiln, should be Jat. What is Jat? Jat is, in simple terms, being faithful. Faithful in what way? Being or avoiding the Vishavikar of calm, of lust, and being faithful, being Jati Sati is how we describe it. Being faithful and respectful. So we don't develop and we don't fall prey to the Vishavikar of calm, of lust. Now in this modern society, everything we see, everything we hear in the media, on the streets, how people dress, is focused towards this Vishavikar. And in some ways it's this Vishavikar that stops anybody from developing in the first instance. And Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji is saying straight away that to be able to be Jati Sati, to be able to be faithful, to be able to be separate and not under the control of this Vishavikar, of this Jor, of lust, that should be our place. Just like the place of a goldsmith, the kiln of a goldsmith. Now, what does that mean? There are 8 different forms of how calm, how lust can develop. And it ranges from listening to somebody of the opposite gender. And by listening or hearing their voice, that calm can come upon us. That those thoughts, those negative thoughts can come upon us. And from listening, it develops through thinking about them, talking to them, and then even such that you're constantly thinking about them, that you never forget about them. And then you think about wrongful acts about the opposite gender. And then it's actually going through and doing a Vajragrat by being unfaithful. So there are 8 forms how they develop, and it only starts, the first start, the simple way starts when you hear the voice of somebody, and even that can bring on a negative thought. In the days when the Sikhs were being oppressed, the Sikhs were known to be noble and honourable. They did see, as the teachings of Bhai Gurdas Ji and Sadhguru Sahib Ji to us are, that anybody who is older than us, we should see them as our mothers and fathers. Anybody who is of the same age as us, we should see them as our sisters and brothers. And we wouldn't have negative thoughts about our sisters and brothers. So if we think of everybody as our sister and brother, we wouldn't have any negative thoughts about them. We wouldn't try to talk to them constantly or contact them constantly or try to hide away and go somewhere else and talk to them, which then leads to negative acts. And so anybody who's on the same age as us, we should see them all as our sisters and brothers and treat them like our brothers and sisters. And we wouldn't treat our paternal and maternal physical brothers and sisters and have negative thoughts about them, so we shouldn't have about anybody else. And then anybody who's younger than us, which in this day and age we know to be wrong, but as Kaljug develops, there seems to be a high proportion of illicit acts with people of younger ages, with children. And anybody who's a child, we should think of them as our own sons and daughters. And in those times when the Sikhs were being oppressed, the Sikhs probably didn't have an opportunity to think about these negative thoughts, and they were known to be very noble and honourable. Even the time when the Mughals and the Afghans used to kidnap hundreds and tens of thousands of Bibiyan from the other parts of India, not the Sikh Bibiyan, not the Sikh women, but other parts of India. And as they would go through, they would obviously have to go through Punjab to get back towards Afghanistan. The Sikhs would go and rescue them. Because they would treat them as their sisters. But even there were many cases when those women, when they were saved, they would say to the Sikhs that, please, we want to be in your family, we want you to marry us, even though they were already, some of them, married. Because they felt that if they went back to their houses, their actual brothers and sisters, their actual families, their actual community would not respect them anymore because they had been taken. So they would fall at the place of the Sikhs. But the Sikhs even then said, you are like our own sisters. And so we are not going to go on this negative path, even if we've saved you, even if you are asking for it. So that is the Jivan, that is the honour, the nobleness of a Gursikh, whether they are male or female. So Guru Sahib Ji explained to the Sikhs that the first quality we should have is the quality of Jata, of that faithfulness. So we don't do wrongful acts, we don't think of wrongful acts with anybody of the opposite gender. We should see them as our brothers and sisters, as our mothers and fathers, and our sons and daughters. And then to help us, we should say the goldsmith. So Suniar is actually translated to goldsmith. The Suniar, the goldsmith, should be Tiraj. Tiraj means patience. Patience and being content with what we've got. Because a goldsmith has to be patient when he is doing his work so he gets it right. And Guru Sahib is saying that we should be patient. We should have tiraj. We should be patient. We should be content with what we have. We shouldn't look and be led by society. We shouldn't waver when we see these negative things in society. That patience and being content with what we have been given, being content, being happy, that whatever has come to us in this world, it was due to our karam, and we should have accepted that because we've learned those teachings. We accept what we have done in our previous lives is what we have come with, and when we've accepted that, we look forward. So we are content with what we've been given. We don't look elsewhere, and we remain faithful. So Guru Sahib Ji is the first qualities of that Gursikh, of that Gurmukh Pyara, who is a Brahmgyani, who is one with Vaheguru. And the first quality for us to be targeting, or the first qualities, are those qualities of being Jati Sati, of being faithful, and that quality of being patient and being content. And Guru Sahib Ji, like I said, is using an example of a goldsmith and his workshop by saying the workshop, the kiln of a goldsmith should be the faithfulness, and the goldsmith himself should be our patience, should be that content, that quality that we have. And now the goldsmith, when he's working, what he does, he has a block of gold, and obviously he's shaping that gold into the shape, into the necklace, And what the goldsmith does, he hits that block of gold that he has. Obviously he heats it and he hits it and shapes it into that form that he wants. Whether it's a ring, whether it's a coin, whether it's a necklace, whatever it is, the goldsmith hits it. So when he hits that, he needs something hard underneath that gold. And what they have is an anvil or some loha, some iron. We could use the anvil. So it's something which is made of iron, which he places the gold on, which is heated. He puts it over the fire, and he brings it back there, and he uses his hammer to hammer it and shape it. So Guru Sahib is saying, Aharan Mata. Our mind, our understanding, our intellect should be that anvil, should be that piece of iron where the hammer, the hatiyar, is banging. So our intellect, our understanding, our thought processes should be the anvil, and Ved, hatiyar, Ved meaning gyan, knowledge, should be that hammer that we're hitting this gold with to shape it. Now, why has Guru Sahib given us those examples? Because our mind and our intellect should not waver. Because that iron, that anvil that is underneath the gold cannot waver. If we hit something on wood or hammer on wood, that wood would break, it would crack. It's not strong enough. It wouldn't be able to handle the pressure. So Maharaj is saying our mind should be as strong as an anvil. Because when it's hit when we are led astray in this society, when the Panch Jor take over us and are leading us astray, leading us away from being one, from our path being one with Vaheguru, our intellect, our mind, our thought process should be strong enough like the iron, like the anvil, so we don't move. Because that anvil cannot move. It's got to be immovable. It's got to be adol. And if there comes a point when we are led astray, because society is strong, Kaljug is very, very strong, and many times things come into our mind and try to lead us astray. What do we do then? We use the hammer of knowledge. And just like that hammer is hammering away at the gold and hitting this immovable anvil, this object, that's what we do. So that knowledge, that Upadesh, those teachings of Vaheguru are the teachings that we hit our mind with. So it's not physically. So any time our mind begins to waver, we think about the teachings of the Guru. And in simple forms, we think about all these teachings we've heard through Sri Japji Sahib. We hear about the teachings that those, if we follow those Panch Jod, what can happen. We've heard many Sakhiyan over these many weeks, where if we have led astray, then we are back into that cycle. And when we're in that cycle, it's very difficult to come back out. But at the same time, we've heard many Sakhiyan where if we follow those teachings, then we do break out. We are protected by the Guru. We are protected by the Guru Sikhs. And anytime our mind begins to waver, any piece of knowledge that we do know of, any piece of knowledge, we think of Vaheguru, we think of their teachings through Sri Japji Sahib, through any Gurbani we know, and that will help us keep our mind strong. And so just like that iron, it's immovable, and anytime we have a problem, we think of the teachings of the Guru, and we hit our mind thinking, no, this is not what Guru Sahib wants from us. We're the Sikhs of the Guru. Look at all those Singhs and Singhaniya that have sacrificed themselves so we could be here today. We think about those things. We think about the Sahibjade. We think about what they sacrificed so we could be here today. We think about what the Gurus did for us. We think about all that history, but then we also think about the teachings. The teachings that we're here in this 8.4 million birth and life cycle, and we're trying to break free from that. And those deeper teachings, that anything that leads us astray from that path will take us back and continue to keep us coming back and forth. And anything that takes us to Vaheguru, and anything that is opposite of these Panch Jod, all those qualities that we've heard about in the past, the qualities that we're hearing about now, if we think about those, then our mind will remain immovable. We won't be led by society. We would become leaders ourselves through the teachings of the Guru. So our mind, our intellect, our understanding has to become that anvil, be strong and immovable. And even if we have a thought that is leading us astray, we have to hammer our mind with knowledge, the teachings of the Guru, so we remain immovable.
Pao khalla agan tap tao.
Pao Khala. Khala, what that means, it's in this day and age we light a fire with gas or electric. We have cookers at home, electric or gas, and we light it and it stays lit. In those days they would light fire obviously using coal or wood or whatever fuel they had, but to keep the fire burning they would blow onto the fire, and they would have this type of fan that would blow onto the fire, which would obviously then give fire oxygen, so the fire would raise. So it's actually about giving it oxygen, but it was like a fan that they would blow. And Kalla means that fan. A goldsmith has one fan. An ironmonger has two fans. So we say Kalla here because we're talking about a goldsmith, so it's singular. So he has one fan, and that fan that is keeping that fire burning and burning bright and burning hot is our Pao, fear. Not the fear of God that we're scared of God, because we shouldn't be scared of God. God is all loving. Vaheguru is all loving. We shouldn't have fear for them. But what do we have fear for? We have fear that we don't do anything wrong. We remain in nimrata, because having that fear keeps us away from that other chore, hankar, ego, pride. Because if we remain fearful, we remain humble. We're not scared of God, and we don't think badly of God, but we remain fearful that we don't do anything wrong, that we don't disrespect Guru Sahib Ji or Vaheguru. So that fan that is fanning that fire bright is that fear, because without that fear, without that fan, that fire doesn't stay bright, doesn't stay warm, doesn't keep going. And if we don't have that fear inside of us, that fear of doing anything wrong, we won't keep going on that path. Because as soon as we lose that fear, we will go off that path, because we won't be bothered about what we're doing. We will go against the teachings of the Guru. We will continue to cut our hair. We will continue to take intoxicants, alcohol, drugs, cigarettes. We will be unfaithful and fall into the prey of lust and be unfaithful. And we will start, obviously, killing animals for our ras, for our taste. So to keep that fire, to keep us on that path, to keep that fire burning bright, to keep us burning and bright, we need that fan. And that fan is the fan of being fearful. Agan, tap, tao. The fire itself, the agan, is tap, tao. Tap here means that penance, that continually remembering and repeating the name of the Lord. So we continually repeat the name of the Lord, and we always have fear that we don't do anything wrong. A sakhi, or an example of why we should always remain fearful. There was if you will, a spiritual person many, many years ago, and he had two sevaks, servants, he had two chele, he had two followers, and that spiritual person was about to pass on the role on to his student, who would be the next teacher. And he tested both students out. And now he tested those out, he gave them both pigeons. He says, what I want you to do is I want you to go wring the neck of this pigeon. In other words, kill the pigeon. But I want you to go find a place where nobody watches the pigeon die. And if nobody watches that place, wherever nobody watches, that's where I want you to wring its neck and then bring it back to me. And then the first student went off. He went outside, he went around the corner, he looked around, he didn't see any. He wrung the neck of the pigeon, brought it back very quickly, and his teacher said, okay, you've done that, just sit down and let's wait, see what the other student does. The other student had gone off, and he tried to find a similar place, but when he went round the other side, he saw people watching him. So he thought to himself, I can't do this here. He then went, well, the best place I would go is maybe I go into the jungles. If I go into the jungles, there's going to be nobody there. When he went into the jungles, he started to wring the neck of that pigeon, and then he looked around and he saw different birds and different other animals. And he saw that he realized his teacher, his master said that nobody should see. And that didn't just mean humans, so that meant animals as well. So he says, I can't do this here. And then he went inside a cave. He went inside a cave, and he decided to do it there. But when he did it there, he looked at the pigeon. Obviously, he was looking at the pigeon, and the pigeon looked straight in his eyes. And he thought to himself, well, there's no person, there's no other animal here, but who's watching me kill this pigeon? The pigeon itself is watching me. And I'm watching the pigeon die, so I'm again going against my master. I'm watching the pigeon because I'm doing the deed of killing, and the pigeon is watching me kill the pigeon, so somebody is still watching. So what he decided to do then was blindfold himself and blindfold the pigeon, or cover up the eyes of the pigeon. And he started to do it again. But then at that point, he had a thought. He thought about what he'd been doing. He thought about people watching, he thought about the animals watching, he thought about watching each other. And he realized, he thought, well, even now somebody's watching, because now God is watching, Vaheguru is watching. And he realized there's no hiding place. And in fact, his master was giving him a teaching that he should always remain fearful. He should always remain fearful on not doing any wrongful deed, because always, if nobody or no animal watches, there all is somebody watching. And that body is, if you will, without being disrespectful, that is Vaheguru. Vaheguru always knows. They're Angsang, they're with us all the time. They're omnipresent, they're present everywhere. They know exactly what is going on, exactly what we are doing. That's why our actions are being counted. And so when he went back to his master said to him, well done, sit down. The first student said, to finish off this tale, the first student said, I actually followed your command, I actually killed this pigeon. And he said, you killed the pigeon, you thought nobody was watching, but the second student will explain, and which he did, and he said, it shows that you're not fearful, you're not worthy of being a teacher. So that is showing us, that Sakhi there is explaining or showing us why we should always remain fearful. We should always remain fearful in terms of what we do, because Vaheguru is always watching. We should always remain respectful and fearful, and therefore our other Vishavikar, the ego, will decrease. So the Gurmukh Pyara, the Gursikh, who is a Brahmagyani, who is one with Vaheguru already, is like this. They always remain fearful. And then Vaheguru, Guru Nanak Dev Sahib is giving us a target of remaining fearful. And Agan Taptao, so that fan, that's fanning this flame, this ag of Agan, that fan is that fan of remaining fearful, that we don't do anything wrong, that we stay respectful, we stay humble, and that fire itself is the repetition of the name, because that fire's got to keep going, and the fire keeps going by repeating the name of Vaheguru, and that constant repeating the name, remembering of the Lord. So then when this goldsmith makes this goldsmith is making the gold, and what he has a panda. He has a sort of a plate, if you will, or a pot, or wherever they put the gold in. So over here we describe it as panda, pao. That plate, that has to be love. So the next quality is love, pao. And what is going into that thali or that panda? Amrit, tetratal. So that gold is being shaped by Amrit. So what does that mean? It means Amrit is the teachings of the Guru, the hukam of the Guru. So Guru Sahib Ji says, I mean, many people question that Guru Granth Sahib Ji doesn't tell us to take Amrit. I mean, on a very, very simple level, that's what else does this Pankti mean? We want to become that plate, so our bodies, we should be full of love for Vaheguru. And if we're full of love, we obviously follow his command, and his command is to shape ourselves with Amrit. Amrit Tal. Shape ourselves with Amrit. So on a simple level, it's following the hukam of Tan Sri Guru Gobind Singh Sahib Ji, the 10th form of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji, the 10th embodiment of Vaheguru on this earth, who gave all the Sikhs the command of taking Khandadi Pahul, which is known as Amrit, which is known as Amrit Sanskar. That ceremony is known as Amrit Sanskar. So the taking of that Khandadi Pahul to make us full of Amrit, to make us immortal, to shape us in immortality. And then when we are shaped in that immortality, all those other teachings that we heard about, the Panchakakar, keeping those on. Kada, Kanga, Karpan, Kashera, Kes, no cutting of the hair, having the case, kashera, wearing that kashera, that undergarment, having a kada, the karpan, the Sri Sahib, and obviously the kanga in keeping our hair. And then at the same time we get given the teachings of the Gurbani, the 7 Banis minimum that we have to read each day. The Panj Bani in the morning, Japji Sahib, Jap Sahib, Svaiye, Chaupi Sahib, Anand Sahib, Rara Sahib complete in the evening, and then Kirtan Sohila before we go to sleep. And that is what is described as Bani and Bana. Bana, our form, the 5 Ks, Bani, the Gurbani that we read. And it's just like if you think of a bird can only fly with 2 wings. If you cut one of those wings off, the bird jumps about. If the bird has no wings, it's not going anywhere. We've got to have those wings, and then we've got to make those wings strong. We make those wings strong, we have both of those wings. So if I say, well, I wear the 5 Ks, but that's it, I've only got 1 wing. But then if I say I do a lot of path, but I don't need to take Amrit, but that's not right neither, because we've only got 1 wing. We need both wings to fly. And when we fly, we make those strong by staying away from the Bajjar Grats. And they would remain strong and stay strong. And when we remain away from those Bajjar Grats, which I've already described, no intoxicants, no tobacco, no cutting of the hair, because that is most important, no adultery, remaining faithful, and no eating of meat for our taste. So our wings would strong and remain strong, and we would fly. So we have to shape ourselves in that form, the form of the Guru. But if we want to take that spiritually, we can say, well, Amrit can be taken for, when we repeat the name of the Lord, we will start tasting that Amrit. We will start tasting that nectar of Amrit, or experiencing that nectar of Amrit. Guru Sahib Ji gives us Pankti, Amrita Bani Har Har Teri. This Gurbani is Amrit. So we start tasting this Gurbani, we start experiencing this Gurbani. This Gurbani is God. Vahu Vaha Bani Nirakar Hai, this Jevadav Na Koi. Bani is God, so we experience Amrit, we experience immortality, we experience God, we are shaped because we are one with Vaheguru. Now, others would question why we need to take Amrit. And they could say, well, okay, you've just talked about those wings, why don't I just put those 5 Ks on? And why don't I just start reading the Gurbani? Why do I have to go through that ceremony? Now, I'll give you another quick example. In India, they still have those nalke, where you have to pump down and water comes out from deep within the ground. And those nalke, to get one of those nalke going, what they do is they dig right deep in the ground, 30 foot, 50 foot, however far they want to go. And water doesn't automatically start coming out of there. If they've dug into there and they put the nalke on, as soon as you start pumping, water doesn't automatically start coming out. What they have to do is get the water to rise to that level first. Then when you pump it, it will come out. And how do they get the water to rise to that level? They have to actually put water in first. When they put water in, that water rises and then starts coming out. So in the same way, within ourselves, when we put out that form, when we're shaped in that form of Bani and Bana, the 5 Ks and the Nitnem, we have to first put Amrit within ourselves before that Amrit can come out, so we can experience that Amrit and become one with Vaheguru. And putting that Amrit in is through Khandedi Pahal, because the previous 9 Gurus from Sri Guru Gobind Singh Sahib Ji, even they had an Amrit ceremony. Because you could ask this question, well, this is Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji explaining to the Siddhs about Amrit. The Amrit came in Sri Guru Gobind Singh Sahib Ji's times. But in the time of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji, till the time of 1699, when Sri Guru Gobind Singh Sahib Ji performed the Amrit ceremony as we know it, Guru Sahibs would give Charna Amrit, Amrit from their Charan. So they would wash, the Charan would be washed and that Amrit would be taken, and then you would become the Sikh of the Guru. So Amrit has been there from the time of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji. And even many people say, Bhai Mardana Sahib Ji was a Muslim. No, he wasn't. He may have been born in a Muslim family, but actually he was the Sikh of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji because he had taken Charna Amrit. And then at the same time, Bhai Balaji, they say, well, he was a Hindu. No, he wasn't. He may have come from a Hindu family, but he was a Sikh of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji, and he had taken Charna Amrit. And Bibi Nanaki had taken Charna Amrit. All the Gursikhs had taken Charna Amrit from Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji, and they continued to do so from the following Gurus until the 1699 ceremony of Khande Di Pahal, where we take Amrit from a Khanda. And then we have partaken in that ceremony. So Guru Sahib Ji is explaining to the Siddhs and us that that Gurmukh Pyara, that Gursikh who's already a Brahmgyani, and for us are shaped in Amrit because they have that play of love, that love for Vaheguru. They have developed that longingness for Vaheguru. They've developed that Bairag. Bairag meaning they have lost love for the world and they only love Vaheguru. They have lost love for society. They don't follow anybody else. They only want to meet and become one with Vaheguru. And so that is the quality they have been given, that plate where that gold is being formed, is being shaped. It's being shaped by the Amrit, and it's being shaped through love at that point, so it develops spiritually.
Kadiya Sabad Sachi Taksal.
So, Kadiya Sabad Sachi Taksal. Taksal can be described as the coin, the sikka, because a goldsmith can make a gold coin. So if we describe a gold coin which is being made, Kadiya Sabad Sachi Taksal, that gold coin, that Brahmgyani, that Puran Gursikh is only formed when then he repeats the name of the Lord. Kadiya Sabad, when he repeats the Bani of the Lord. And then that Gursikh is formed. But then at the same time, they are shaped and they are formed because Taksal, Sachi Taksal, is in the Saad sangat. So when they come to the Saad sangat, when they come into the sanctuary of the Guru and other Gursikhs, they are formed and become those Gurmukh Pyare, those Brahmgyanis with complete knowledge, with oneness with Vaheguru. What do they learn from the Saad sangat? Well, you can learn many things from the Saad sangat. You can learn four qualities from the Saad sangat. What they describe as Kahani, Sahani, Bahani and Rahani. Kahani means you learn how to speak. Because you read Gurbani, you see others, you start to speak. Your speech becomes sweet. Kahani, you speak with sweetness to everybody regardless of the situation. Sahani, you start taking, if somebody starts shouting at you, swearing, you start taking it. You take it and you don't lose your anger. So you gain that quality of Sahani. You learn that from the Saad sangat. Because we hear these Sakhis of Guru Sahib Ji, how many people said and did different things, but Guru Sahib Ji took everything on board. The Gursikhs took everything on board, and they partook and they gave their Shahidiyan. They didn't get angry. They weren't taken by these Panch Jor. So that we learned Sahani. So we've learned about Kahani, how to sweetly speak. We've learned how to take if somebody shouts at us or speaks wrongly to us. And from Sahani, we learn how to Bahani. We learn how to sit. We learn how to sit in the Saad sangat. We should sit in the Saad sangat cross legs, with respect, with humbleness. We shouldn't sit with our legs up and all sorts of pointing our feet towards the Guru disrespectfully. We learn how to sit. But then further than that, we learn Rahani. We learn how to act and live out our lives from the Saad sangat. So we learn how to act and act respectfully with those qualities that we've been taught. But at the same time, that Rahani is only given through those teachings we've described, through the Amrit Sanchar, the Amrit ceremony. We Rahani rahe sohi Sikh mera, O Sahib mein uska chehra. Tan Sri Guru Gobind Singh Sahib Ji says, the true Sikh of mine is that who lives under the teachings of the Guru. That is who a true Sikh is. Rahani rahe sohi Sikh mera. Those Sikhs who stay in the Rahani, who stay under the teachings, who follow the discipline of the Khalsa, of the Guru. Panch Kakar minimum, the Sat Bani Nitne minimum, the staying away from the Bajr Krats minimum, staying away from Joot and Joot, falseness. They are true Sikhs of mine. You're not just a Sikh by giving the name of a Sikh. You have to stay in the discipline. And Guru Gobind Singh Sahib Ji has said that to us. And that's what we learn from the Saad sangat. We learn how to stay in that discipline. We learn how to stay in that discipline, and such we are formed. And we are formed just like the Brahmgyani, who is one with Vaheguru, who is the Gurmukh Pyara. So Guru Sahib is then asked by the Siddhs, so how do we reach those levels? And Guru Sahib Ji describes, Jinka Nadar Karam. Tinakar, those Sikhs, those fortunate ones reach those levels, reach this stage. Jinko Nadar Karam. Nadar, Guru Sahib Ji blesses us with his vision, he looks at us. Karam, and then he gives us, Karam is translated here as Kirpa, his blessings. He gives us his blessings by glancing at us. But Karam can also mean our own Karam. If we live the lives doing Nishkam Karam, remember those actions that we're not asking for anything materialistically. We're not asking for anything. We're just asking for the happiness, the blessings of the Guru. So those who follow that way, in that discipline, they become these Gurmukh Pyare. They are the ones who become one with Vaheguru.
Nanak nadari nadar nihal.
And then Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji is saying to the Sikhs and to us, those who then live in that way, who are blessed with that vision, what happens to them? Nanak nadari nadar nihal. They become exalted, they become full of bliss. Now I'm going to share a few sakhiyan about this glance of the Guru. Once Sri Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji, when they were given the Gurgaddi, and when they were given, then Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji told them to go back to Khadur Sahib. Khadur Sahib was a centre of Gursikhi from the second Guru. That's where Sri Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji stayed, Khadur Sahib. And Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji sent them off there, and they sat in a samadhi, they sat focusing on the charan of Vaheguru until they were given the Guruship, but Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji had not left this world. So they were passed on that you're the next Guru of the Sikhs, but until obviously Guru Sahib Ji, Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji leave the world, then Sri Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji cannot take up that seva, if you will. So Sri Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji are sent to Khadur Sahib, and they sit there in their samadhi, oneness with Vaheguru, concentrating, affixed. And Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji then continue for a little more time and leave this world. And it was Baba Buddha Sahib Ji, the one who performed the ceremony of giving that Gurgaddi to Sri Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji, who's been given that seva and completed that seva for 6 Gurus, and then his family lineage continued that seva for the following Gurus. Baba Buddha Sahib Ji came and then did benti to Sri Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji that Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji has now left, and you need to come out and give darshan to the Gursikhs and pass and take on, continue the Gurgaddi, continue giving the teachings. And it was known, because Sri Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji stayed in that area of Khadur Sahib for quite a while, and it was known that at Amrita Vela, whenever Sri Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji would come out of that samadhi, whenever they would come out at Amrita Vela and come outside to go to the Dharamsala where all the Gursikhs would gather, if you want to call it a Gurdwara, where they would gather and sing the praises, sing the hymns of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji, sing the teachings of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji, read Gurbani. The first person or the first being that Sri Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji would see, any of their dukh, any of their diseases, their rogs, any of their bamariyan, any of their problems would vanish. Whether that would be a person or whether that would be an animal. So what started happening is everybody would gather outside of the house where Sri Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji would reside, as they would come out at Amrita Vela before going to the Dharamsala, to the Gurdwara, to sing the praises of Vaheguru. They would wait there just to be the first person or the first being that Sri Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji glances at and gives their blessings, because that first person would always be blessed. And then we can take another Sakhi of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji. Sakhi of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji. Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji obviously spent a lot of time travelling, giving their teachings, and in this Sakhi, Bhai Balaji and Bhai Mardana Sahib Ji are both with Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji. And Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji goes to this village of thugs, of deceivers, of cheats. And what they would do, they would rob people. Not just one person. Obviously there's a Sakhi of Sajjan Thug, but this is a separate Sakhi to Sajjan Thug. It was a village of these robbers, of these deceivers. And Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji is actually going there to bless them. And what Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji decides to do is, they say to Bhai Balaji, we put on some rich clothes, we're going to dress well, because we're going to go there and we're going to we're going to invite them to deceive us. Obviously, Guru Sahib Ji didn't say that to Bhai Balaji and Bhai Mardana Ji. They just went along with whatever the command was. But that's what Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji were doing. They went and stayed there. And those villagers, those 4 people, the house that Guru Sahib Ji was staying at, and their companions who were going to do this thuggi, this deceiving, this robbing, got together and said, tonight what we'll do is you rob Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji of their possessions, and they will share everything in the morning. Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji knew what was going on, and they knew what was about to happen. But what they did is, at sunrise or well before sunrise, like they would do, they awoke Sri Bhai Mardana Ji, Bhai Balaji said, let's go. The Thug whose house they stayed at remained asleep, and Guru Sahib Ji and Bhai Balaji, Bhai Mardana Ji walked off and left the house and left that place. And now those villagers, when they came in the morning to wake this one who was supposed to do it that night, supposed to rob Guru Sahib Ji, said, where have they gone? And they go, they've gone, I fell asleep and they must have gone, I never awoke and they must have gone before me. But they didn't believe him. They thought, you must have robbed them and you're lying to us now. Then they went and checked out to their spiritual leader, their Peer, and they said, no, he's telling the truth. Guru Sahib, they couldn't have gone far, let's go and follow. So they followed the footsteps or the path, they found the path where Guru Sahib Ji had gone, and they followed Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji. And as they followed, Guru Sahib Ji kept looking behind. And at this point, Bhai Mardana Ji and Bhai Balaji are getting a little bit worried, because they see these people coming with sticks, because they don't want Guru Sahib Ji to get away, because they've got so much lalach for this thieving that they want to steal their possessions. So they're coming with sticks, and Guru Sahib Ji keeps looking back, and Bhai Balaji, Bhai Mardana Ji are getting worried. And Guru Sahib Ji says, continue, don't worry about it. As they catch up to Guru Sahib Ji, these 4 who followed, they say to Guru Sahib Ji and Bhai Sahib Ji's that, take your clothes off, give us all your possessions, we are here to rob you. And Guru Sahib Ji goes, you're here to rob us, what are you going to do with us when we give you our clothes? So they're playing, let's say, this action out, this hukam out, because they're giving them a teaching. And they say, well, we're going to have to murder you, because now you've seen us, you know what we do, we're going to have to kill you. And Guru Sahib Ji says, alright, if you're going to kill us, then we would like to be cremated. So please don't bury us, don't leave us here, don't leave us our bodies to rot. Please, if you're going to do that, then cremate our bodies. And again, Guru Sahib Ji is playing this out. Bhai Mardana Sahib Ji and Bhai Bala Sahib Ji looking, thinking, what's going on here? And they go, well, where would we get that fire from to burn you? And Guru Sahib Ji looked to the side, and at the side, just a few yards or a few yards away, a few meters away, there was somebody's cremation already happening. Nobody was there, but just somebody's body was being cremated, or somebody must have cremated it already earlier, and obviously they leave while it gets cremated, and the families then come back to pick up the ashes. So they must have left that place, and there was a body being cremated there. And Guru Sahib Ji says, look, there's a fire there. Why don't you go over there, get that fire from your sticks, don't worry, we won't go anywhere, leave your people, or we'll stay here because it was only a few yards away. Go get that fire from there, and then come back, then we'll take off our possessions, then you can murder us, then you can cremate us. And they went and did that. When they went over to that fire, as they were going to that pyre where the cremation was happening, they saw quite a bad scene. They saw a scene of a person being taken by the Jamduds, the angels of death. And they saw that person being dragged, being burnt alive, a lot of punishment happening to that person. As they were going to that body, just 10 or 15 yards away, just a few yards away. And they lit the fire, but they were shocked to see what they'd seen. But as they lit the fire, they've come back, and then another scene came in front of them. But this time, that very person who was being beaten by the Jamdud, the angels of death, being punished, being burnt, they now saw that same person sitting on a throne and being carried along. And I thought, what is this? 1 minute ago, we see this person, and we see this person being dragged by the Jamdud, the angels of death. Now, we've come back from that pyre, and we now see the same person sitting on a throne and being carried. and then they came back to Guru Sahib Ji. What they'd realised as they were reached Guru Sahib Ji, that this person is the person on the pyre, the person who had passed away. And maybe the person had done some wrongful deeds, so the Jamdud, the angel of death, are taking that person away. But now, for some reason, he's now on a throne and being carried. And so they thought that this must be some spiritual person, Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji. Guru Sahib Ji had glanced their blessings, they had looked at them with their blessings, and now they had been blessed. And Guru Sahib Ji explained that when, just like you've been blessed and you've realised, as Guru Sahib Ji looked at that pyre, that cremation happening, their vision, their sight went onto that person who was being cremated, and in fact that person was being taken by the Jamdud. But as they looked, at the same point, those people had left to light their fire. When they looked back, as Guru Sahib Ji looked at that person, they've been blessed. So now the Jamdud have had to go away, because Jamdud don't go nowhere near where Guru Sahib Ji is, where the Gurbani is, where the Gursikh is. We've heard previous Sakhya about that in a previous body. That person is now being taken away in a throne. So again it describes Jinukau Nadar Karam, those who are blessed with the vision of the Guru, they become Nadri, Nadar, Nihal, they're exalted, they are in complete bliss, they become one with Vaheguru. And it's not just the glance of Guru Sahib Ji, it's the glance of any Gursikh. Another Sakhi, Bhai Dhuni Chand, was a great Gursikh of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji, and he lived in Lahore. And Bhai Dhuni Chand called, it was a year after his father had passed away, and Bhai Dhuni Chand called many spiritual people to do their langar on the remembrance of this anniversary of his father passing away. And Guru Sahib Ji was in that area, so he called Guru Sahib Ji as well to give their prasad, to feed them langar as well. And at the end, when everybody had gone, Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji was there, and they said, Guru Sahib Ji, Guru Sahib Ji asked them, in fact, why did you do this langar? And Dhuni Chand goes that this is the 1 year anniversary of my father passing away, of dying, and I wanted to remember him, and I'm feeding all these spiritual people so he gets fed. Because in those days, a lot of people still thought, you know, they were caught up in the old ritualistic ways, and they thought, well, if I feed a spiritual person, then I'm actually feeding my father, who must be sat in heaven somewhere, because he was a spiritual person. And Guru Sahib says, actually your father has been hungry for 3 days. And Dhuni Chand looked in amazement at Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji, and he says, what do you mean? He says, your father is actually become a... And if you take this prasada and you go and send, Guru Sahib Ji sent Dhuni Chand off into a direction, and he said, you'll come to a place and you'll find this animal, and he's actually been hungry for 3 days, and that's your father in his next life. And Dhuni Chand got that prasada together and ran off into that direction. And when he fed that prasada to that janwar, to that animal, his father came out of that animal, so the light of his father came out. And Dhuni Chand says to his father that, why have you become an animal? You were a spiritual person as well. And he says, when I was old, last year, our neighbour started cooking fish, and the smell of the fish came into our house. And when I smelled the fish, I went outside, and our neighbour said, why don't you come and enjoy some of this fish and have some of this? And I didn't even eat the fish, I just smelt it. But my thought in my mind was, I would like to eat the fish. So I had a negative thought, and actually I passed away with that negative thought. And because I had that negative thought when I died, I became this Janwar. And I've been this Janwar for this last year. And then Bhai Dhuni Chand asked, then why are you saved now? And he goes, I'm saved now because Guru Sahib Ji's vision, he looked at you when he said, go feed the prasada. Guru Sahib Ji also said, when you go feed the prasada, repeat the name of Vaheguru. And because Guru Sahib Ji looked at you, Guru Sahib Ji put his blessings inside you, and now you have come here and you've looked at me. You're a Gursikh, you're a Sikh of the Guru, and you looked at me. So through the blessings of the Guru into you and then you into me, I've now been blessed, and I'm now outside of this June, and I am now going to where I should have gone last year instead of having that negative thought. So this nadar, these blessings, you can even be giving blessings by the blessings of Gursikhs, because Gursikhs constantly read Gurbani, they constantly come into the Sharan of Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and even if a Gursikh looks at another person in a positive way, that even that person can be blessed. That's why we say we should do the seva of Gursikhs, because those Gursikhs will surely leave you with something positive, with some blessing, and then your karaj, your things that would be your deeds would be sorted out. Now, just aside to this, if you're thinking, well, what if I think, you might get worried and think, what if I think of something negative when I'm about to die? Well, Guru Sahib Ji gives us a simple teaching. Whatever we think about while we're living, as we live this life, if we constantly think of Gurbani, we'll be protected. Guru Sahib Ji has told us that many times. If we are Amritaris, if we keep the 5Ks, if we read Gurbani that we've been commanded to do, if we stay away from the Bajrats, we will be protected. So even when it comes to our last time, because we've done and we follow the teachings, we will be protected. In our minds will only be Vaheguru, so we will become one with Vaheguru. We won't have to think of anything negative. So if we have that trust and Shraddha and Bharosa in Guru Sahib Ji, we will be protected. Just one more Sakhi that comes to mind, again in the times of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji, again through this nadar, through this vision of a Gursikh. So we've had two Sakhiyas, Sri Guru Angad Dev Sahib Ji, Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji, have their vision. But also now we've had one Sakya, now another Sakya of a Gursikh's vision with blessings can also give anand, can give bliss, can give oneness to a person who is on this path. There was a person, a spiritual person, who would believe in this Peer, and he went to the Peer and he would always ask the Peer about how can a glance by a spiritual person, how can that give a blessing? And he'd never found an answer. And when he met Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji, he brought Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji to his house, and he said to Guru Sahib Ji, he did seva of Guru Sahib Ji, fed them langar, and he said to Guru Sahib Ji, I've always had this question, how can the glance of a spiritual person give blessings and help sort out or help develop somebody spiritually? And Guru Sahib Ji goes, if you go out of your garden, walk in that direction for so many miles, go over there, sit down, do some Simran, and then come back and tell me what you see. So he went so many miles that Guru Sahib Ji asked him to travel. He sat down in that very place and he started doing Simran. And what he saw was two crows, a male crow and a female crow. And those male and female crows turned into cranes. So cranes are other types of birds, and they turned into cranes in front of his eyes. And he went back to Guru Sahib Ji and he said, I saw two crows, but then in their same place, because he didn't see them turn automatically, because he saw them as crows, he closed his eyes and did Vaheguru Simran like he was told to do. He looked back up, he looked at them again where they were sitting, and instead of them, they were cranes. And he said, that's all I saw. So I looked at crows, I did some Simran, and then maybe those crows flew away, and there was cranes sitting there, again, male and female. And Guru Sahib Ji, the next day said, okay, go again to that same place and do the same. So the second day he went again. And the second day, there were no cranes sat there, there were two swans. Again, a male and female swan sat in that same place. He did his Simran and he came back. And the third day, Guru Sahib Ji sent him again, because he still didn't have his question answered. And he went on the third day, and the third day, instead of swans, there were human beings sat there. Male and female human beings. And he looked at them. They both came and fell at this Gursikh's feet. And he stepped backward, he said, why are you touching my feet? And this human, male and female, they were husband and wives, explained that you, at your house, are serving Vaheguru. Because the person at your house, Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji, is the embodiment of Vaheguru on this earth, and you have been doing their seva. and you are being blessed by them because you're doing their seva, they are glancing, they are looking at you and giving you their blessings. And every day you came out here, those blessings were put into you, you did some simran, you looked at us. And each day we developed. We came out of one June and we came into another June. And each day you have come, we have now been given this human form. So take us back to Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji, so we can bow at the feet and we can gain those direct blessings. And this Gursikh and these male and female, Bibi and Baba, they came and they fell at the feet of Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji, all three of them. And Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji blessed this Sikh who was asking to be taught how can a glance bless somebody. And he'd seen at first hand how his own glance, because he'd been blessed, and that's the glance of the Guru, is passed on. Is passed on, and how anybody can be blessed. Now again, we don't want to take a question mark over this Sakhi and think, how can this happen? Because if we're questioning the Sakhi of the Gurus, then we question the Guru himself, and we question Vaheguru himself, and then there's no way we're going to develop spiritually, there's no way we're going to break free. Because I've talked in previous weeks about questioning the Sakhiya. So let's not question the Sakhi, let's put the faith in Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji and believe these Sakhiya, and this can actually happen. In the same way, when you go to the Panch Pyare, the Panch Pyare are the ones who repeat Vaheguru and Moor Mantar. And the Sangat stands in front of Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Sri Guru Granth Sahib Ji are putting their power in the Panch Pyare. The Panch Pyare are looking at the Sangat, and through the glance of the Panch Pyare who are Guru Roop, that Vaheguru Mantar, that Moor Mantar is being enshrined into the Sikhs. When they take an Amrit, they are given Naam. They are being dreaded by Naam. So then that is put inside of them so they can repeat that name and become one with Vaheguru. So this glance, just by looking, you can be blessed. And Guru Sahib Ji has explained to the Siddhs right at the end of this 38th body of Sri Japji Sahib. They have explained to the Siddhs that Gurmukh Pyara, we've learnt this week about those qualities, this Brahmgyani, this Gursikh, Gurmukh Pyara who is one with Vaheguru, those qualities that they have, how they live that life, through this example of a goldsmith. But then right at the end, Guru Sahib Ji is showing Nimrata and showing us Nimrata that we can only gain these qualities or hit these targets or aim for these qualities if we have the Nadar Karam, if we have the blessing glance of Guru Sahib Ji, and then we get Nadri, Nadar Nihal, we get exalted, we are in extreme bliss because we are in one with Vaheguru. If I've made any mistakes in explaining this body, I'm sure I have. If I've offended anybody in explaining this body, I beg for forgiveness. You, the Saad Sangat, can bless me with Brahm Gyan so I can continue sharing the teachings of Sri Japji Sahib. And I pray to Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji, Akal Purkh Vaheguru, that he blesses us all with Gursikhi and all with the Jeevan of this Brahmgyani, all with these qualities that we've heard about this week, and with this vision, this blessed vision that they glance their eyes upon us, so we can be blessed and we can become one with Vaheguru, so we can all experience that bliss while we're living and share that together. Next week we'll hear the final body of Sri Japji Sahib, which is called the Sulok. It's actually numbered 1 on its own, and in some ways it could be the conclusion of Sri Japji Sahib, and we'll learn about that next week, next time, before we've completed the teachings. When we set out this program, we were doing Beinti to the Sangat that we all should learn Sri Japji Sahib. If we don't know it, if we know it, we should try and memorize it. If we've memorized it, we should recite it once, and if not once, continue to recite it more than once, to 5 times, and even develop that further. I do Beinti to the Saad Sangat again to continue in that way. I mean, even if we haven't been able to learn it all because we've been learning and cancelling out our mistakes, maybe we should listen to it. And that will help us take those mistakes out and practice, and maybe just recite those body that we're learning and constantly read those over and over until we get the whole of Sri Japji Sahib. So I beg for forgiveness again, and Beinti to everybody to keep that target in mind, that we've learned and we're learning about Sri Japji Sahib, but the way we're going to get this vision, this blessing, this glance from Guru Sahib Ji is by reciting Sri Japji Sahib. We are told in the Sakhiyan by the following Gurus that those Gursikhs who read Sri Japji Sahib, those Gursikhs that have Sri Japji Sahib on their tongue, those Gursikhs have Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji on their tongue. Those Gursikhs have Sri Guru Nanak Dev Sahib Ji protecting them all times. So those are the aims we should be having, and if we read Sri Japji Sahib over and over, we will gain these qualities which we've learned about today. We will get that blessed glance, and we will become one with Vaheguru. Deho sajjan sisaniya jo hoga sahib syo mel
jin ko
nadar karam tin kar nanak nadri nadar nihal. Vaheguru ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru ji ki Fateh.